Hi, it's Behind the Curtain IMO. I'm Betsy Jordan. You may see my shirt. It says do something. I think it is time for everyone to take a look at what can you do to aid your country. We are a country that has been divided for a few years now. That divisiveness has us looking at issues in a way that comes from a filter of, are you Democrat? Are you Republican? Are you an independent thinker? Are you a liberal thinker? Are you focused on saving the planet? Is there a key issue that you really are keyed in on, like reproductive rights? More people are involved and active in politics than ever before in our history. I think that overall is a very good thing, because there is nothing that politics does not touch. I think there are many times when people look at political candidates and expect them to be the answer person, expect them to have all the answers. And honestly, to become president of the United States, first of all, I would never want that job, okay? But those that do want that job have to have a certain confidence and belief in themselves, so that if they don't know the answer, they're likely to need to develop a position on the answer right away. Now, I'm not excusing any of it. I'm not excusing somebody for coming out and saying, I believe in this and this and this, or I don't believe in this and this and this. I want to ban abortion. I want to basically define the family. I mean, surely, on the fly, for somebody to say things like that and then come back and go, but I personally don't believe in this, but I am okay with other people having a choice. It's just that when somebody's running for office, for the highest office of the land, you want them to be consistent in their positions. So it's a fair thing to expect, right? So when Michelle Obama said at the Democratic National Convention, do something, I decided the thing that I could do, and probably do as well or as good or as well as anything else I've done to aid political candidates, is that I would start these videos, and I committed to a video a day. That's a lot, but I'm keeping my commitment. So the issue today is more about this: how do candidates express their views in a media world where they have 15 seconds or less to get their point across, and it not be taken out of context? Really very difficult, because these issues that face us are very, very complicated. A lot of times so complex. So let's talk about fracking, because Kamala has been accused of changing her position on this. And I don't see it that way. I have not talked to her about it. I have not talked to the campaign about it. I've not read any white papers on it. But this is how I see it. Some of you may be aware of what fracking is and what it isn't. Some of you may not be. But when we see the level of bloodshed and war that is happening with Iran, with Russia, with Ukraine, with Israel, when we see that, and we see these global superpowers coming at each other through proxies, whether it's terrorist organizations or other, or we're not in a ground war, but we're supporting Ukraine. Those kinds of endeavors affect our policy domestically as well. What was beginning to happen was there was going to be a negotiation to bring prices down in the United States with the Saudis and Israel. And Iran did not like that. Okay? So I do think that something about that negotiation, which is still happening, by the way, is part of the reason for the timing of the attack by Hamas on Israel. So it's complicated. It's layered. Right? And so our need to become less energy dependent and energy independent, less dependent on the Middle East and more dependent on, change the way we had to look at drilling oil or fracking or things like that, okay? However, all of that, the whole big broader umbrella of depending on fossil fuels, and there are those of us who look at how often we see plastic and how often we know what plastic is in. It's in everything, right? Forever chemicals, right? And so completely getting rid of fossil fuels is not going to be possible, at least not in my lifetime. And I'd like to be proven wrong about that, but I'm not right now today seeing anything on the horizon that's going to stop our dependency on fossil fuels. But our search for alternative sources of fuel is not for naught, because we don't want to be dependent on the Middle East for our power or our energy. And so we are doing both, right? It may seem like there's a change of position here, but it's not. It's like, okay, we tried to experiment with electric vehicles, and in the beginning, it was a flub. Why? Because we realized you couldn't get very far on an electric vehicle. That was the first thing. Second thing is the raw materials that are needed to make the battery of an electric vehicle work. Those, we could not find a way to dispose of those. We still are struggling with those kinds of issues. But that doesn't mean we're not going to overcome that issue. The issue of charging and it taking so long to charge, believe me, I can't stand that. But, you know, charging stations not being frequent along the highway, those issues are things that will ultimately be overcome. But right now, they're not. So what do we do with the day-to-day? Well, we do our best to remain forward thinking about how we can be energy independent, and also to help everyday Americans with their gas prices, with, you know, vehicles that are dependent on gas still, right? Some companies are moving to electric vehicles and electric trucks and things like that, and we can thank Elon Musk for that, right? There are all kinds of reasons I might have a problem with Elon today, but we can thank people who are thinking forward thinking, because they're going to solve some of these problems. But right now today, we don't have those problems solved. So when Kamala supports a bill that is a compromise bill to support our energy independence and less dependence on the Middle East, she's doing something for the sanctity of the country, even though she doesn't agree with fracking. Now, why does she not agree with fracking? Because what we're seeing with fracking, and again, this is something that is not perfected and may never be, but fracking in many cases causes sinkholes, causes polluting of the water, and we've not been able to contain that in some cases. So that is an environmental issue and it's a health issue. So it's all interrelated. So I'm doing something by sharing with you how these things are interrelated. This is Behind the Curtain IMO. Thank you for being here.